Welcome, Drink with James, episode 84. If I believed in lucky numbers, might be one of my lucky numbers because I was born in 1984. Any other 84 babies, you can throw some, throw some of this in the comments or something. This is the second Drink with James I'm filming this week. As I said, and as you may have known, I was in Lake Placid last week, so we're doing double time this week. It's Friday afternoon. It's 5:35, which is drinking time, which is nice. It's been a long, busy week. I was in the Caymans with NetJets, which was obviously chic and fabulous and wonderful. And then I've got a family trip to Lake Placid, so this week was just like completely slammed. But I personally like those weeks. I prefer when I leave the office feeling like, oh my God, there's 50 things I was supposed to do and didn't get done today. And when my days are so full that I have almost no time to myself. Some people don't like that. Some people like to have a little bit more quiet time, but I like to be like totally fucking hectic and out of my mind and busy because I hate myself and I like to torture myself. So it was a good week. But next week's gonna be very different. Very chill. Lots of fireplaces and sweaters, and maybe a dog sled ride or two. So I'm looking forward to that. My favorite thing about Lake Placid is it's not full of complete assholes like Aspen is. I've never been to Aspen, but I can tell you I hate it. I don't think a ski town should have a Chanel in it. I don't. Look, here's my general travel thing. I don't like places that are really easy to get to. I think when a place is easy to get to, like Vail, right? Vail's got like an 8-lane highway that goes right up to it. It's just full of assholes, honestly. And I prefer places that are difficult to get to. Lake Placid is, a 6-hour drive from New York. So if you're coming from out of town, you have to fly to New York and then drive 6 hours up there. It is one of the coldest places on God's earth, so really nobody in their right mind would want to go there. So it's beautiful. It's just full of maniacs who have some sort of connection to the place. And I think it's like a really cute town. It's like stuck in a moment. It's a very like 1960s, 1970s, the town in general. So I dig that about it, but it's just like quiet and beautiful. I've done Salt Lake, I've done Park City, I've done Vail, Colorado a little bit. I just don't think they're very pretty because they're like those high deserts. So there's like not a lot of vegetation or anything. And again, the roads are really wide and there's like these big towns with like huge Hiltons and shit. And like, I don't want to be on vacation looking at a Hilton, okay? Like, that's not something I want. So I want to go to a place where I don't have to look at a Hilton. And Lake Placid has that. There might be a Hilton. I don't see it when I'm there. So, okay. That good? Okay. What's your advice on not making everything feel like a competition between influencers? Well, first of all, it is a competition. These are your competitors, and you should be trying to fucking crush them. I'm a competitive person. I don't think that competition is a bad thing. And end of the day, y'all are going after the same pot of money. Do I think you should be supportive of each other? Yeah, I mean to a point. I don't think you should Tanya Harding a motherfucker and take them out just to try and get the job that they're going for. But end of the day, if a brand is considering you and somebody else, you are in competition with them. And again, I think there's a way to be supportive of each other and know that a rising tide lifts all ships, or whatever that phrase is. But the more work people are getting, the more work there is in the space, the more work that there is available, the better that is for everyone. But when a brand chooses to work with you, it means they don't choose to work with a lot of other people. And by nature, that means it is competitive and you are in competition with other people for a limited amount of resources, that resource being money, opportunity. So I wouldn't shy away from it. I wouldn't shy away from the competition. I wouldn't worry about it too much. there's a new influencer marketing company every week that pops up. I'm sure you guys get messaged by them all the time. I don't know who most of them are. I don't really give a shit what they're doing. I just I'm in my lane doing my thing. And, if one of our competitors does something clever or they, take a client from us, I find that interesting insofar as I want to know why we didn't get chosen. Doesn't happen that often. I want to know why we didn't get chosen, and so we can be thinking of that. I don't necessarily react to it and say, okay, well, now I have to do this one thing. So I think healthy competition is a good thing. Unhealthy competition is not a great thing. So looking at your colleagues in this space, other influencers, and feeling a sense of competition and wanting to be better than them is a good thing. And I hope that they're looking at you and your feeds and wanting to be better than you as well, because again, that's how we all get better. If we don't feel like we're competing, then what are we doing? We're treading water. So. Do you think that brands should? So I think this was maybe a result of our NetJets trip. Should brands, let's say we went down to the Caribbean, should they be working with someone who lives in the Caribbean, or should they be working, bringing people into that space? I think I totally understand how that could be a frustrating thing. Brands are doing more and more brand trips to different countries, to different cities, to different parts of the US and different parts of the world, and you might see a bunch of top tier influencers come into your town and feel like, why didn't I get that opportunity? I could show this place in such a more authentic, organic, interesting way. And you know what, that is probably true, but oftentimes these trips are used as a conduit to get better content. So you go to the Caribbean because the photos are going to be really beautiful, not because you're trying to speak to a Caribbean audience. We see this a lot with brands that are doing work in China. They often are flying in influencers from the US and Europe to do work in China because they are just trying to use that experience to say something about their brand. Maybe more than in that activation specifically, they're looking to speak to a Chinese population, a Chinese consumer. So I think it's important to remember that. And again, I understand the feeling of I want these opportunities. They're in my town, they're in my country. Why aren't I able to do that? But you have to think about what they're, who they're trying to sell to. And I think as an international influencer, something to consider as well is that, currently, the U.S. is still the most important market in the world for consumer goods. Certainly, the brands that we're looking to work with China as a very close second. But the U.S. is always going to drive strategy for the time being, and it's always going to be really important. And we've answered this question before about somebody who was a UK or a US or a European-based influencer, and they were moving to the U.S. And we said that, it is really important to be able to build up a U.S. audience because it's just such an important country for these brands, and they're looking for new and interesting ways to speak to this U.S. audience, and to kind of show the lifestyle, and sometimes that means leaving the U.S. and going to other places. So natural to feel weird about it, but I wouldn't get too bent out of shape. Last. This is not a question, but just something interesting that happened today, and it'll be a week or so old by the time you guys hear about this or you hear me talk about it. I don't know if you saw that hotel in Dublin that has banned bloggers from it, and publicly shading some YouTuber for asking for a comped room. I think, she put a video out. I didn't watch it, but I saw some stuff about it, and she put out something saying I got outed or something, and she was embarrassed and upset, I think, about the response the hotel had to her asking what I thought was a very polite, professional email asking for comped rooms. Listen, the person who wrote that, the hotel in general, is in one way clever that they are getting a lot of attention for this. It's completely ridiculous, and it's a ridiculous policy that I cannot see a single hotel that matters being like looking at this and saying, should we do that as well? The best hotels in the world are tripping over themselves to try and work with more influencers, because this is where attention is. This is where people are finding out about hotels and clothes and cars and places to go on vacation. And so it's incredibly important, and it will only become more important for these hotel properties to be working with influencers. And so I wouldn't let, the actions of one shitty hotel in Dublin, which calls itself a luxury hotel, but I saw some photos, and motherfucker, that is not luxury. One hotel in Dublin change the way you feel about asking for this. Again, you want to be professional, you want to be reasonable, but she had 78,000 YouTube subscribers, 80,000 Instagram followers. Totally reasonable to get 2 nights free hotel for coverage on those socials. I think where you want to watch out is you don't want to be an influencer with 10,000 followers hitting up the Four Seasons asking for a week's stay during the busy season. That you don't want to ask for something that is ridiculous. I think it's important to be respectful. Where you can build a relationship before you ask for something, you definitely should. Nobody likes to have a relationship start with you just asking for something. But a lot of times these hotel stays are more transactional. You're coming to a place, you really do like the hotel. And she said that in her email. We're coming here for a couple days. We've been searching for hotels. We really love your hotel. Would love to stay there. I think that that's a completely reasonable request, but just make sure you're like in line. We've talked about, you kind of understand basically what an Instagram post should cost for you, and the value that you're providing for the hotel should be quite a bit more than what they charge for the room. So if you're $1,000 a post and the hotel room is $500 a night, and you're staying for 3 nights, I think you should think about like 6 posts potentially, and try and structure it that way. So maybe try and provide 2x the value that they would pay for the room versus the post.
Do you think that this is a one-off, or do you think that this is going to become a trend?
I totally think it's a one-off. Yeah, I think that again, hotels are essentially, tripping over themselves again to work with more influencers, because they need to get there's so much competition, there's so many great hotels out there. I do not see this being a trend at all. You guys are advertisers. I mean, it's just advertising, it's nothing else. So this hotel is essentially saying, we don't want advertising anymore. And good on you if you can survive without advertising. There's very few brands in the world that could survive without advertising, certainly without word of mouth advertising. And if they are one of them, then kudos, bravo. But I imagine the backlash that they will get won't be worth the little stink that they caused on the internet for 10 hours. Anything else? That's it, guys. I've got drinks in 15 minutes, and then I have to pack and drive up to Lake Placid tomorrow morning. So cheers.